Welcome to the CapLanner podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of private capital markets. Whether you're new to private market investing or a seasoned professional, this podcast unpacks the latest trends, insights, and opportunities shaping the industry. Featuring expert guests and deep discussions, CapLanner is your go-to resource for staying informed and inspired.
Hi,
Hello.
Morgan.
Hi, Jody. How are you?
I know who goes first, right?
I
Is it
know, seriously.
age before beauty or which way first, huh?
I would do it how you do it when you get on an elevator, which is age before beauty. So, but you are a
Yes.
beautiful woman, so I'm
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
biased and the wrong one to ask. Well, welcome back. We are kicking off our season 2 of the Caplander podcast.
We had 10 episodes in the first season, and we decided that since we started off the first season together, that we're going to start off the second season together. So, with that, how about we do a little update? We've had some exciting things in the press lately.
Yes, we've had exciting things in the press that have really been fueled by a lot of new data that we have released, as well as platform upgrades. One of which has been year over year compensation data trends, which is now covering for or available now for private companies, investment firms, and corporate venture, as well as a comp planning tool, which really helps companies plan and investment firms plan for how the mix of cash and carry or total cash and equity will change as fundraising and raising capital continue.
I think the year over year trends is great because, I've always valued the fact that as a data firm, we don't just give you data and basically say to you, you figure out what to do with it. We give you data and we wrap it with analysis, which is really so helpful. And now it's become a complete strategy that the press has embraced. And that's included in places like Fortune and Forbes and Axios and TechCrunch. And just recently, we had an article in Business Insider on AI and pay premiums. And much to our surprise, that was also picked up by the deal book for the New York Times last week. So that's sort of fun because we didn't know. Usually we're waiting to see, and now we're getting the sense that the data is so great. And that's a lot of credit to you, Morgan, for realizing that these things needed to become products. So very exciting.
That's exactly it. To talk a little bit, to hover on the Business Insider article in particular, because there was one number in particular, and we'll make sure to link it here so that you can see it. But it was that private companies are paying a premium of up to $200,000 for data scientists, data analysts, and software engineers who have skills and experience in AI and machine learning. And this premium sits on top of the base salary. So it really is an extra dollar amount that somebody gets for.
Well, it's not an insignificant dollar amount, right? Because $200,000, which was the higher number. I mean, that's the part.
It
It
is
could
the
be.
max, right? Yes.
Yeah, it could be, but the reality is that it's a important lesson because a lot of times people have education and more education, but they don't know how to utilize it in a career. And this really shows that the reason why we talk about pay premiums is because it shows an elevated level for someone that may not have more education or more experience, but they have a skill that's very much in demand today.
Right. Which is really what's going to lead us into, we'll kind of touch on some of the things that we have coming up. And obviously, the best way to stay in tune with what we have coming up and what episodes, as well as what press is dropping, is to follow us on LinkedIn or to follow the YouTube channel. Or the Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But what we do have coming up now that we really are excited to get into is we asked ChatGPT, who is Jay Thelander Consulting, and we
Well, we
wanted to.
figured, all this AI stuff is so hot. So we sort of thought that we should turn the tables on ourselves and
Right?
ask these questions. So we did it. Morgan and I were up on a little family sort of business retreat in the Blue Ridge
Boondoggle.
Mountains. Yeah, to Boondoggle in North Carolina. And while we were doing it, we did it sort of just to have fun with it. And then we were like, okay, well, maybe we should really talk through this. And lo and behold, the Caplander podcast. So, okay, Morgan, when you ask ChatGPT, who is Jay Thelander Consulting? Let's walk through it.
Here we go. So the first thing that we get are some nice little images, and then it says that Jay Thelander Consulting is a Miami-based compensation intelligence and advisory firm founded in 1997 by Jody K. Thelander, who serves as CEO.
Okay, so that's all correct. And we know 1997 is exactly
Yeah,
the
you just
date
had
because I am
a
just
An anniversary. You had I
Yeah.
saw on your LinkedIn, you had a work anniversary.
So
Congratulations.
fun, actually. And not only have I had the work anniversary, but like I had a client come back who was one of my original clients. He worked at a company called Fluidigm, which is now public, and it was my first biotech client. And he came in to say congratulations. And it's been a lot of time since I've known many of these people in iterations in multiple jobs and careers and companies. So yeah, very
Right.
exciting. Thank you.
I think yes. Well, I guess that's my next question before you move on. Are you where you thought you'd be being used as a premier or really reliable data source in sources like the Wall Street Journal and TechCrunch and Axios and all these outlets?
I'm flattered by the press and that they see what I've always seen. And I have to laugh with this
Which is
because, as
what?
you know,
What have you always seen?
yeah, I've always had the vision for the company that, I mean, I remember reading the Wall Street Journal when I was younger in high school and in college in particular. I always liked the Wall Street Journal and the news in general around business. And I thought to myself that when I built a company that we were going to be featured there or that one way or another I was going to be in that. Like that I always manifested for myself. And I always had confidence that that was going to happen. How it was going to happen in this way, I would not have put my money necessarily in this lane for sure, being a data and consulting firm for the private capital markets. But now that I see it and what's going on in this industry, I get that why I'm a part of it. Because as you know, I don't think like everybody else does. I certainly don't want to be bossed around. I want to be in charge. So it makes sense that there's something like this that's very authoritative. And of course, how great that
Well,
we do it together.
you are the boss. There's no
Yeah,
doubt.
I like that
All
part.
right. Let's okay, so we're gonna go into further into this. So what they do, according to ChatGPT, is there are three options. One, compensation data subscriptions, and it says that they run live benchmarking surveys, Thielander Private Company Compensation Survey, and the Thielander PitchBook Investment Firm Compensation Survey, covering private tech, life science, VC, private equity, and corporate venture roles, with thousands of firms participating.
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, I think the optimal distinction there is that we run surveys, and that's the part that is unique to Thielander in the private markets because many private companies plug into payroll to report their data, which is very limiting. And
Other compensation sources get their data by plugging into payroll, and we do not do that.
yeah, because I think that's very limiting. I want to use another word, but I'm not going to use that. But I think that the quality of that can be subject to young companies that haven't really leveled their job titles and they make mistakes because we know we get hired on the consulting side to have to clean up these messes or to put companies in the right direction. And payroll data can be very choppy versus survey data that also is vetted and cleaned is a much more robust way and more accurate.
Well, partly too is that it takes time, right? And our survey covers a lot of different areas. We have not only the real time, the compensation data, which includes base salary, bonus information, if there was a bonus that was given, and then the equity percentages.
And target bonus, which is not included in payroll.
Right. It also, we covered non-investor board compensation for any independent or advisory board members, which is comes up all the time. And then we also cover option pool, mergers and acquisitions, change of control and severance. Severance is broken into whether somebody has a severance agreement in the event of change in control or not in the event of change in
Yeah.
control.
Right. I mean,
Very
Morgan, every
detailed.
time we do a podcast or we do a webinar, all this data is used and comes up. And then in addition to that, really relevant to the data that was just used by the press, none of that comes from payroll.
No. Well, none of that comes from payroll, but then there's the whole expertise because we're so hands-on with the survey and adding new questions and incorporating what's going on in the market so that we can respond. Not only can we respond, but then we have the data to back it up.
Right.
It's a relationship where we are really meant to be a resource, a compensation resource for private companies and investment firms.
Yeah. So what else does Chat GPT say about us? Anything on
Well,
the
the
consulting
only
side?
Yeah, there definitely is. The only part that's missing from the compensation data subscription side is that we also include corporate venture firms, which is underneath
Oh,
the
you said it
investment
was
firm.
there.
It says that it's here, but it is a separate survey for us, which ChatGPT did not get. So We're gonna,
Hopefully they're
all right,
listening to us. Somebody's listening to us either through the phone or some other way now.
somewhere. Okay, so next up for our second service of what we do are consulting services that we offer tailored consulting from board compensation guidance to designing pay structures for portfolio companies of VC/PE funds.
Right. So does it talk about the investment firm consulting or the corporate venture consulting?
No, it does not.
Well, so basically every area where we run a survey and have data, we use that data to consult. So it all comes from our own platform and our own IP. And that's really sort of this holistic approach because when we're consulting and questions come up with clients, if we don't have the answers, we add questions. And when we do use our own data then for further to consulting, but when we're doing these webinars or showing up with clients and questions come up, we add it into our survey. So it really makes sense because there's nothing that we can't tap and we're pretty agile that way. So, and the
Nimble. We
responsiveness,
are
nimble.
nimble. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I'm
Um,
agile. You can be nimble. I'm hustling, and you're
that,
nimble and are
that's true.
agile.
We'll take it.
Yep.
Okay, and the last part here says platform features, which we've touched on a little bit, but it says recent tool launches include year-over-year compensation trend analysis and forecasting features. That's true. But I mean, our platform has so much more than that, but that is true. Okay, let's move on. So then company snapshot talks about where we're headquartered, which we've already been through, talks about you, Jody, and your career. And then it says why it matters. And then it says the data tools are widely cited by top tier media sources, which we've been through, and that we offer real time insights on compensation trends, helping private companies and investment firms with talent acquisition, retention, and market positioning.
Okay, let's slow that down with talent acquisition. So basically plans, because I know a lot of recruiting firms also purchase access to our data. So talent acquisition means how are you going to pay people in what's market? What was the
Right?
other piece of that?
Retention.
Right, because if someone says they want to raise, or you've got to be checking what's going on, because the other survey that you didn't touch upon, which we do for all of those groups, whether it's an investment firm, corporate venture, or a private company, is we have a separate survey on salary increase and bonuses. So that's really relevant for retention. And then what was the
Yep.
other area?
The last one is market positioning, which even I read that and I think to myself, what for market positioning?
Well, because all these areas, especially for a private company, as you said, on change of control and severance and option pool and the refresh of equity, right? There's been a lot going on around companies that have either been acquired or, somebody licensed their technology, but the
Yes.
employees didn't get everything that they had wanted. I think you have to figure out where you want to position yourself and who your key talent is, because as time passes and a private company raises more money, the equity becomes more valuable, right? It's less
It
risky.
could.
And right. With that, you really have to position yourself. And on the investment firm side, whether it's a venture firm or private equity or hedge fund, you have to figure out what kind of carrots you're going to have. Are you going to have a carried interest plan for everybody? And if they're going to contribute capital, like there are a lot of ways to look at it. So that's what it talks about with the positioning, because it's not just one data point. It is a whole, the optics on how do you want your firm to be positioned in the market, and within the position of the market, what roles are going to be crucial and how are you going to structure all that. And the sooner you get your eyes on this and figure it out. I mean, I know we're consulting now on the investment firm side, and some of these firms are very, very mature.
Yeah. I mean, it's also very mature, but this is, you use the word optics, which we used in the press release for the year over year compensation data release, which is so important because when you're able to look at the past and you can see what's gone on and really customize that to be relevant and to be the most relevant for your firm or
I
for your
think you want to
company.
look out on the runway. No one is sitting static. And the more you keep your, it's like the dog that hides under the bed and he's like, well, if I can't see you, you can't see me. And you're like, yeah, we see you. And you can't hide, because if you do that as a firm, you run the risk of becoming stale or stagnant. And nobody wants that, especially in this whole, the bottom line is everything that we're doing, it needs to be innovative, and we're right along with it.
Right. Which actually, so I'm going to lead into the next part because the chat GPT question is that why we're considered reliable, which I thought was an interesting thing that they pulled up. And one is deep market penetration, that we're the only firm to cover the global private capital market, exclusive to private companies only, which says unlike public databases, which rely on filings, the
Or,
Lander
or
collect.
the gobbledygook of mixing public and private, which is
Right.
just
And so
So
then it says
bad.
Elander collects direct real-time survey data from participants. And that one I really want to touch on because Jody, you're totally correct. And I am a firm believer. I like offense. I don't like to be caught when I'm running down the field trying to prevent the other team from scoring. I want to be like hauling down the
In
side.
charge.
Right, exactly. And that's really part of where, so we've changed our survey process. And one of the biggest changes, if you haven't been with us for longer, if you're just joining us now, is that the survey's open year round, which means that every company and every firm is essentially on their own schedule. But part of
Right,
how
because we used to have a survey schedule where
exactly,
before the data was real time, we used
totally,
to run this, what we thought would be sort of every year, and then the survey would close and the data would get published, and before you
it
turned
was a
around, you had to
report.
do it again, right? So
Right. It was a
now,
report. It's not
yeah,
like that anymore. But now, but it's the same model. It's a give to get model, which means that there's no cost to participate. And then you always get access to data back in return. And we have just totally changed the way that what the incentive was for companies.
so wait, that
And
means I'm gonna break this down. If I participated, I
okay,
got
Jody,
access.
you are a CEO and a founder of a company, and you need comp data. You just raised $30 million dollars and you're looking to hire 15 people and you need to look at your compensation. You go to survey.jplender.com and you create your account and you complete the survey. If you put in compensation data for your existing team of
Right?
10 people, when your data gets accepted, which is within 24 hours, you
Right.
will
That
get,
means I put in data and it's good data, and you can show, you can say who I
yep,
am, and you can see the
yep,
company, and there's nothing that raises a flag saying my numbers are too low or too high, or I didn't make a mistake with a decimal point. So then it goes into the data set, and then what happens?
you get an email that goes, welcome aboard, and you get your link to the platform and you can log in and you will now be able to see your all of the job titles that you inputted data for, you get back.
What if I put in a job title that, well, I guess that's actually not making sense because it used to be that I would put in my 10 jobs and I got back what you gave me and it didn't matter what I put in,
No,
right?
you got a Happy Meal. You went to Mickey D's and you pulled up and you got a gamble for the toy. And we gave you like the most popular toys,
Yeah,
but it
you
might not
get what you get, but that
right.
doesn't matter what you gave us.
Right. And now that's changed. And that really
Yes, people
came
didn't. Well,
from
people, it shows that we listened because people were saying, okay,
didn't
that's
like
great.
it.
I put in my 10
Right.
jobs and you gave me 40 back, but none of my 10 jobs were in there. So I don't care about those 40.
Right. And just so that we are not mistaken, we will always make sure that somebody's happy. So if they did not get the jobs, we will always find a way. But now we have changed the model so that off the bat, your instant access, that instant subscription that you get as a part of the survey
What if I put
participation,
in 100 jobs?
and you get 100 data tables and
Wow,
you can you get 100
very
if you
exciting.
take the time to do it and you get it, that is our whole we really appreciate and
Yeah.
we understand that taking the survey requires time
Yeah,
and
but
we
also,
want to make
Morgan, one thing I
sure.
have to say here is there's no quick fixes. Let's be clear. Just because you get something for free doesn't mean it's good.
Look, I love when I get like my trial of things and I can see it for myself. And that's really essentially what Jody and I take workout classes in both of our respective places and we always trial it out. But those 7 days or however many days of those free classes, if it's good, I'm willing to
Yeah,
pay.
we're on board.
Because,
Yeah.
right, I'm willing to pay because I can see exactly what I'm going to have
And there is
access
a lot of
to.
free stuff on YouTube or TikTok, but the reality is
Not the
that
same,
stuff is not curated
not
by
pure.
somebody,
Well, yeah, it's not
yeah,
curated. And that's
garbage.
really where, so we're going to keep going down the list now. And then,
Yeah, let's
right,
finish up here.
we've gone through what the complimentary subscriptions are. We've gone through the media sources. We've gone through the
What else
one
is
part
there?
that it really then it starts to get into the comparisons of other data sources. And we're not going to get in and name names, but the biggest difference
Are there
or the
other
biggest
sources? Isn't Thelander the only source?
Xander is the elite source. There's really the part that I think Jody and I really want to instill is that the survey process and survey participation is like your annual doctor's exam. You got to get a checkup. It's a pulse check, regardless of how much more data and information you need, is really going to depend on the company or the firm. But the survey participation, the biggest overhaul is to do it the first time. And then
Right.
once you do it,
Then you
keeping
have a
it
baseline
current,
and you can keep updating it.
so easy.
And this is where maybe we finish up with this, is that anything worth having, there are no cutting corners. You've got to put the quality, the integrity, the trustworthiness, the fact that this is global data, and the fact that there is no question that for an investment firm or a private company, getting this right is the very crux of what is it being innovative, right? You want to know the relationship between the cash and equity or the cash and carried interest, the marketplace. Every single newspaper that we have been in or article that we have been in talks about the competition for talent, and that talent is talent and the good people are getting paid. And getting that right is not a rounding error. So once you get that right, you can move forward and focus on the business. But the source where you're getting this information really matters. And of course,
And also
that's
with the
where,
integrity of the data. We
right.
collect all of our data in-house. It never leaves our hands. It
Yeah.
doesn't go through another
Yeah, we
place.
haven't
It's
had a
not,
breach or we don't make mistakes. And I
no.
think that's really important. Quality in, quality out.
And also customer service, because I just dealt with this for a return, and I honestly I could have banged my head into a brick wall. It's when you're talking to somebody and they're an East Jesus. I want to talk to
Right.
somebody who first of all I want to be able to
Live
call and somebody
person answers
answers
the
the phone.
phone. Right.
Right. I don't want I don't want to email a broad account and not hear back from somebody. And that's really part of it. And that's part of the testament to having the podcast and everything else is A, we're reachable. We want to be able to talk to you about it. If you
How many
have
times do
questions.
people email us and say, thanks for getting back to us so quickly? And I think to myself, were we supposed to wait? Because if you have a question on compensation or something else, isn't there urgency to it? Like you're reaching out because it's a priority for you. And we know waiting is not fun.
No, especially when it's something around your money and the compensation. It's not, this is not, oh, I'm going to wait and see. This is like, no, I have my bills due and this is not insignificant. I don't have people who are working
That's
for
the
me for
last thing
free.
that I think we should add here is we've been working on a Caplander playlist because
Oh, yeah, this is fun. Well,
we
we
love all
can't
these
use,
theme songs.
yeah, so we can't use the music we really want to use. So we are, Jody and I are working on it. We'll share it once we get enough on it to really be in a good place. But that is going to be like your mojo song. So that when you need like a whole little, your confidence booster or you need
Right.
something to like really jam out to, then we want it to hear what you think about it too.
Well, it's a mix of country. Like I see we've got some things on here like your backup plan or too easy or better be tough. Or I know we even put a little AC/DC on there. You shook me all night long. So we've got some theme songs. We're going to keep adding to it to set the tone because we have that hustle going and we want to make sure that we share what is it? When you say you do this when you're doing your workout classes, like, something that really
Seriously.
motivates you and helps you keep
Totally.
your mind on all of it and your
Your
mind on
mind
your
on your money and your
and your
money on your
money on your
mind.
mind.
There
Yeah.
we go.
All right, Snoop
Perfect.
Dogg. Okay,
Sounds
that's it.
good. All right.
Join
Until
us.
next
We've got a whole nice lineup coming up. So, yeah.